An elderly woman sees a man named Sal through the peephole and lets him in, apologizing for bothering him. She explains that she would have fixed the shower herself, but she has arthritis and the screws were too tight even for her husband. They pass by an old man sitting on the couch who appears to be asleep. Sal tightens the shower head and fixes it easily while she sets out tea and cookies. She invites him to have some, and he joins her at the table. When the doorbell rings, she excuses herself to answer it. She asks him if he has met the new neighbors, and when he replies that he hasn't, she mentions that they make a lot of racket and need to stop playing their music so loudly. He agrees. Meanwhile, the old man is getting undressed and is carried out of the adjoining room by two people. A man approaches and she excuses herself from the table and follows him to the door. She walks to the doorway where two men stand beside the old man's body in a clear, transparent bag. Calmly, she unzips the bag and leans down to kiss the man on the lips. They depart, wheeling the body away and telling her they'll see her tomorrow. She bids them farewell with a smile on her face. She closes the door and looks back at the man sitting at the table with a small smile on her face. The body is wheeled into an ambulance and taken to a skyscraper belonging to Eternum. It is brought into a darkened room filled with others in the same clear elastic bags. All at once, all the people in the bags appear to regain consciousness. They open their bags, step out of them, and walk out of the room. Sal, who's replaying memories of a woman doing various activities in his mind's eye, is interrupted when his sister, Eve, enters. She tells him to turn it off and asks if he was watching Zoe's memories. She warns him that she'll have to cut off his access the next day before anyone notices. He asks her to say it was her watching them, but she replies that she doesn't view the memories of the absent, she just manages them. She invites him to have dinner out, but when he doesn't answer, she heads to the kitchen to prepare food, telling him it's mom's tortillas. The next day, while putting food in the oven, he hears loud music from the neighbors upstairs and plays a recording of Zoe's music through his headset from the recorder he saw in Zoe's memories. As he listens, he downs an entire bottle of prescription pills and washes them down with beer, visibly depressed. Ebe finds him high on the drugs and curses when she sees the empty pill bottle beside him. She forces him to throw up the pills to stop him from overdosing. Ebe goes to Zoe's parents' house and is greeted by Zoe's mother, Clara. She lets her into the living room, and as soon as Zoe's father, Ben, sees her, he tells her she's wasting her time, that they've already discussed it, and decided against it when Zoe died. Ebe tells him he's not the only one devastated by the accident. He responds that he wasn't the one driving the car, implying her brother was responsible for his daughter's death. Ebe suggests therapy. Ben questions whether they just call it therapy to sell it better, and she replies that that's what she calls it because it would help them. He asks how it would help to sit with some stranger, and she argues that it wouldn't be a stranger, that it would be Zoe's memories and thoughts in a different body, and tells them to let her live again. Ben grows heated and shouts at her for assuming they don't want Zoe to live. He tells her to leave the house. Ebe walks across the room to the mantle and tells them all they have of Zoe is the urn on the mantle that holds her ashes. She places a card next to the urn and tells them she'll give them access to Zoe's memories. It's up to them to decide whether she's in those memories or in the urn. Sal stands on the platform by the train tracks and sees a poster advertising Another End, Take Your Time to Say Goodbye by Eternum. He moves to stand behind a woman standing next to him. He inhales a deep breath as the train moves in front of them, blowing her hair in the wind. She boards the train and he follows her inside. As Sal walks in the gloomy streets, a narrator explains that Another End is a second chance for those who suffer a sudden loss, and it provides time to prepare for goodbye. The match of an absent one to a host is made according to a compatibility calculation, which then determines the number of possible sessions, as well as the total duration of the simulation. The host metabolizes the memory of the absent one while sleeping, and upon awakening, the memory is activated, setting in motion the simulation. During the simulation, the host's own consciousness is suspended for the entire session. We come into the office, where Ebe is giving the explanation to an elderly woman who's a potential client, and she gives her an origami with the company's contact information. The woman asks if she can have someone younger, and eBay replies that compatibility is assigned based on calculations, and it isn't possible to choose a host. Carla comes into the office, obviously having made up her mind about Zoe. Two men check Sal's apartment, making sure everything is in place for the arrival of Zoe's host, and let him know that for her, it'll be like waking up from a long coma in the hospital. The man checks the cabinets and fridge, removing items that might be spoiled, and tells him it's for insurance purposes. Sal asks if he has to move the things he has moved back into their place, and the man tells him that it's completely up to him. They take the cloth she wore the last time, and the man tells Sal to let them know if there is anyone who hasn't been notified of the simulation on his wife's contact list, and he corrects him, saying they weren't married. Sal is in the back of an ambulance, small cuts visible on his face. A man tells him that they'll retrieve and sedate her to get ready for the second wave of awakening, which will take place in the hospital. He instructs Sal not to reveal anything that might inform the absent one that she is deceased. When they arrive, he tells him to step away from the stretcher. During the reawakening phase, even the slightest doubt could compromise the simulation. Sal confirms that he's ready. The host carrying Zoe's memories is then brought into the ambulance and placed beside him. A man drips blood onto Sal's forehead to make it look like it's bleeding. Sal looks at the woman while she regains consciousness, and the man asks her routine questions about herself. She answers them and asks Sal if he's okay, and reassures him that she'll be fine. She loses consciousness after the man reattaches her IV, and they arrive at the hospital. They wheel the stretcher out of the ambulance as Sal steps out and sees Ebe and Zoe's parents waiting outside. Her parents head inside while Ebe tries to talk to him. He looks panicked and tells her he can do it. She tells him there are groups that could help, but he refuses to go through with it, saying she's a stranger. She fires back that it's her with all of Zoe's memories, and not to worry about her actual name, since she doesn't even remember it herself. She tells him they can keep her awake for a day. Still, he says he can't do it and walks away. Sal lies in bed in his apartment, listening to the loud music from upstairs. He goes to his neighbors and knocks on their door. A woman opens it. He asks if they can turn the music down. Before she replies that it's her daughter, and before she goes back inside, a man appears next to her and invites Sal in, despite her protests that it is late. Sal turns it down, but the man insists, and they head inside, while the man goes into the kitchen. A moment later, Sal hears the sound of glass breaking and moves to see the man collapsed on the floor. Sal goes into the bedroom the woman is in and sees that the daughter has also passed out on the bed. The woman asks if he could help her turn the music down, and he shuts off the nearby speaker. She tells him that her daughter and husband died in a fire started by the flame from her daughter's cigarette. She says her daughter still doesn't know it was her fault and believes that her mother is unaware of her smoking. He asks how it's possible, and she explains about synchronization, how two absent ones are awakened at the same time, and how he sees her daughter as she used to be, and she sees him the same way. He tells her he wants to know how she can do it, and she replies that it's just a body, you get used to it. She tells him he should show her how to turn off the speaker so he won't be bothered again. Sal asks how he can see her the way she was, and the therapist tells him that it is impossible. He points at a beastable image on the wall and asks Sal what he sees, and he replies, "A duck," and he tells him it is a rabbit, and all of a sudden he can see the image of the rabbit. The therapist explains that he keeps the image to illustrate how our brain works. He tells us that the image is both a rabbit and a duck, but we can only see one or the other at a time and can never see both at the same time. Our brain chooses what to see based on what it already knows, and they do it constantly. Sal says that he still wants to see her as she was, and the doctor tells him that it is impossible because he knows his wife is dead. He explains that they could make him see a rabbit, but only if he didn't already know that it could also be a duck. That is why the absent ones can't know they're dead. Once they do, they are no longer able to recognize themselves in another body. As soon as they realize they've died, the metabolization process cannot be reactivated, and the next time they fall asleep, they die permanently. When Sal says he tried to believe in the simulation but couldn't, the therapist advises him to argue with her that it's the quickest way to connect to her. Sal has her brought into the house, and Ebe tells him she's in the bedroom before she leaves. Zoe goes into the kitchen and he follows her in, looking at her cautiously. She asks if he slept on the couch, and he confirms that he did. He sits in a chair and stares at her back. She turns around and asks him what's wrong, and he replies, nothing. He asks her if she wants to do something, and she says they could go look for houses or watch a movie. He agrees to watch a movie and asks her if she's still writing her book. She replies in the affirmative and starts telling him about it while she prepares her drink. She turns around and sees that he's on the other side of the living room. She gets annoyed and says not to ask her if he's not interested in listening to her. He replies that he's listening, and she says she's done and goes into the bathroom. He interrupts her while she's using the toilet, and they start to argue. She complains that he doesn't care about what she does or how she feels. He follows her out into the hallway and into the bedroom, asking if it's about the house. She replies that she doesn't care about that or any of the other things she lists that he decided on his own. He insists they decided those things together and asks her to just tell him what's wrong. She tells him he already knows. She storms into the living room, puts on her coat, and starts getting ready to go out in an angry huff. He grabs her arm and apologizes, smiling as he stares at her. She asks what he's smiling at, her lips forming a mirrored smile. Then she tackles him to the ground, and the two of them start wrestling on the floor. He watches as she's zipped into the bag and taken away. Lying on the bed, Ebe asks him how it went. He replies that it went very well, and for an instant, he truly believed it. She tells him it works quickly. He apologizes for the pills and for the fact that she has to monitor him in case he does something like that again. He tells her that there was a time when he took care of her, and she responds that she let him believe it, but it wasn't the truth. She urges him not to waste any more time and to use what's left to say farewell to her. Zoe eats noodles, and they have a beer. He sets up the projector, and they drink alcohol from 2 small cups while they watch. He keeps glancing at her while she watches the movie, and when she places her hand on his thigh, he grabs it. Clara serves them dinner at Zoe's parents' house. She begins telling a lively story about the time she bought fresh mantis to cook, only for them to start running around the house just as she was about to prepare them. Everyone laughs, and then Zoe asks her father if he remembers the one they found dead under a washing machine. He confirms it, though his response is subdued. Sal appears to have read the first chapter of her book, and Zoe seems delighted by this. They start a lively discussion about how she tried to be a vegetarian for a while, which inspired the book. Her father says he wants to read it, even if it's not finished, and Zoe agrees. At the door, her mother hugs her and takes the dog away when he starts barking, not recognizing her. Zoe stays behind and asks her father what's wrong. When she asks if it is the doctor's visit, he confirms, and she reassures him that it'll be all right and gives him an embrace, bidding him farewell. The therapist tells him that they call it a farewell ceremony, and that it's essential to use this final encounter to say what needed to be said to a loved one. Sal asks if he can have more time. The therapist replies that there's a strict protocol around that. When Sal mentions that his sister said it was a high compatibility match, the therapist asks who his sister is, but Sal leaves without answering. Sal tells Ebe that he needs more time and that he feels he has wasted a lot of time. She informs him the number of meetings is established in advance, and she can't help him, and that he got her into a lot of trouble by mentioning her. She tells him that the limits are linked to the bodies of the hosts. They can't be used repeatedly since it's risky. When she mentions using another host, Sal says it has to be her, and she lets him know that she will speak to the host. Sal and Zoe get ready to go out to celebrate, and they each have a glass of alcohol. She tells him that she feels dizzy, and he guides her to the couch. She rests her head on his shoulder and falls asleep. They wheel her body out in a bag. Sal finishes the drink in his glass and goes out to the club. He appears to see Zoe everywhere, and he follows someone out that he assumes is her all the way into a train. The therapist tells Ebe that what she's doing for her brother is wrong, and that she shouldn't force him to share it with someone else. She replies that she knows what he did for his mother. Ebe says that the whole story about it being therapeutic is nonsense. If they could, and if it didn't mean destroying another life, they would give everyone the chance to outlive death. Sal follows the woman into a strip club and sees her pull a man into one of the private rooms in the back. The next day, Zoe asks him what he put in that drink since her body aches. She sits at the table and tells Sal she's having strange dreams. She asks when they'll contact the agent, and he tells her the house is already sold. He sees a bruise on her arm and checks her all over to make sure she's okay. Ebe tells him that the dreams are of Zoe's death. It's called dream residue. She reminds him that prolonged cohabitation in the host's body can leave marks. She tells him that she can't help him anymore, and that she can't make Zoe come back. He argues that she wants him to feel bad, and she replies that it will be the last time. Zoe and Sal sit together in the bathtub, surrounded by candlelight, talking about the house and having kids. He tells her he wishes he had done things differently, and she tells him he'll make a good father. In group therapy, a woman shares how she's coping with the simulation and coming to terms with her loss. The therapist tells them to go without an object that reminds them of their loved one. Sal goes into the strip club and requests a private dance, and the man gives him a list of people he could choose from with the room number he has to find. He goes into the room and sits on the couch. He sees a partially dressed Zoe's host dance provocatively and walk slowly towards and hover over his lap dance. He holds her tight and cries. He waits for her outside the club. She goes out to smoke a cigarette. She asks why he was crying. Was it because he didn't like the dance? He tells her his wife left him. She apologizes and invites him back to her place. Inside her apartment, he tells her he doesn't want to sleep with her. He just wants to be there. She says that costs too much and tells him to leave. On his way out, he sees an origami paper with the Eternum logo. Sal goes to the strip club on another day and tells Zoe's host that his wife didn't leave him and that she's dead. She tells him a friend is what he needs, not her, and he replies that he saw the paper in her house, and she tells him she's a host, not a client. He tells her he knows the origami is for clients, and he could help her since he had a sister there, and she tells him she doesn't want his help. Sal knocks on the door to Ava's apartment and tells her he brought Chinese food. From the bed, she replies that she doesn't like it. He says he doesn't care for it much either. She eventually opens the door and tells him she doesn't want to stay there, then goes back inside to change. He tells her his name is Sal, and she replies that she's Ava. They go for a walk and sit by the water to eat. She asks if he has any kids. He says he never had the time. She tells him she lost her child and that, more than anything, she wishes she could smell his scent again. On another day, Ava and Sal walk through a gallery displaying frames of memories. Ava says it's not what she expected. Sal tells her he once saw his wife's memories back when his sister gave him access. When she asks how he would feel about someone seeing his memories, he says he wouldn't mind. He adds that they'd probably see many shoes. He remembers them vividly from different significant moments in his life. They are on the train, and he invites her over to his place. Ava tells him that she kicked him out of her place because she wanted to sleep next to him. She kisses him, and he cuts it short, going to another room. She moves into the kitchen and seems to have a moment of recognition and picks up the recorder on the counter. He tells her that it belonged to his wife, and she asks if his wife died in a car accident. He explains how they had drinks before they went on a night out and left, and he couldn't forgive himself for being the one behind the wheel. She tells him she saw the recorder in a dream she had while she was hosting, and she seems to realize the truth, and he apologizes to her. Ava goes into the Eternum office building, identifying herself as a host, and requests to see eBay and is directed to her office. eBay goes into Sal's apartment looking for a ring and tells him that Ava knows everything, but she isn't going to expose them. She searches in the drawers and asks him to help her look on the other side and gets down on the floor. They both see the ring at the same time and reach out towards it. She tells him to go talk to Ava and that the things she said surprised her and made her realize she did everything wrong. She makes him promise to go and leaves. Sal takes the train to Ava's apartment and apologizes for lying to her. When she asks if he lied about wanting a baby because he knew it wouldn't happen, he realizes it is Zoe. She tells him that when Ava found out about the truth from Ebe, she offered to wake up one last time. Sal asks why she's here, and she says it's to say goodbye and take him with her. She adds that he doesn't have to feel guilty about anything because no one survived that car crash. His sister has tried several times, but she never could say goodbye to him. Ebe leaves her office after collecting the photos she has taken of her brother in different hosts and her personal effects into a box, since she has been resuscitating her brother when she couldn't come to terms with his death. Sal moves in front of Zoe, smiling at her in relief, and they undress. They turn off the light and she whispers in the dark that she's afraid, and he replies that he's there with her. She asks where, and cut to two pairs of feet walking through snow in ski shoes. Sal and Zoe both go to sleep, and in the morning they awaken looking into each other's eyes. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.